Hello everyone, today I will be talking about Vampire the Masquerade Shadows of New York, which is the sequel to last year's Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York. It markets itself as a standalone, but if you have not played the first one, you will be very confused by the story of this game. It retails for $13, but is 10% off until September 17th. The game is quite short, only clocking in at about 2.5 hours, but I think it makes up for it with its great art, beautiful music. The sound design is very good. The backgrounds are dynamic, unlike most visual novels. So instead of just being like a static background of, like, let's say an office, in the background people will be slightly moving and working, and there'll be sound effects. And I think it really makes the environment come alive and feel more real. There are some complaints with Coteries of New York with your choices not mattering, and I think that complaint is still valid in this game. It's less of a game and more of an interactive movie. You don't really have much say in the narrative. It's sort of, you're just watching a character make their way through the story, and you have a little bit of input on like how they might react to certain situations, but you aren't steering the ship, so to speak. So if that is something that doesn't sound appealing to you, you will most likely not like this game. Unlike Coteries of New York, though, this game does have 2 endings. Technically 3, but one of them is you just dying very early on. The issue is, though, since the choices don't really matter that much, getting both the endings can be sort of a pain because each playthrough isn't really that different. So it would be much better if once you beat the game there was just an option to watch the other ending. I think both endings are very well written and satisfying. One of them was kind of fucking confusing and made me feel like I was having a stroke just because there was a huge exposition dump, which just confused the hell out of me. But once you think about it, you kind of figure everything out. As opposed to Coteries of New York, which only had one ending, and the exposition dump was very confusing and the ending was very abrupt. This one leads to the ending much better. Unlike Coteries of New York, this game only has 1 playable character as opposed from picking from 3, which I think works better than Coteries of New York because your character has much more of a defined personality. In Coteries of New York, the 3 characters were basically just reskins of each other because aside from the beginning and one part of the game, all of their dialogue and inner narration was exactly the same. The dialogue at times can be a little pretentious and fanficky, and the politics can be really preachy and on the nose, and it has the issue where in some situations characters talk the same way. In real life, an 80-year-old grandmom and a 19-year-old wouldn't use the same terminology and speech patterns, but there are times in this game where characters that are that different do talk in that similar of a manner. Sometimes the character does things that aren't necessarily relatable. There's one particular part where she is very upset about something and views something as a betrayal that she gets so angry about that in real life I would not see myself getting anywhere near as upset as she does. The main character can be a little bit weird and unrelatable at times, but I do think that she is a strong character. One feature that I think is interesting but is executed poorly is there are points in the game where when you make choices it gives you a personality trait, and then these personality traits are what leads to each ending. You don't actually make the decision in the end, your character makes the decision based on what personality traits you gave them. I think that's interesting in concept, but it kind of just robs the player of agency in the end, where you don't get to make the choice, which I could see being annoying for some people. I thought it was fine. I would do like the idea of your character making decisions on their own based on what like major defining decisions you made for them, like forming their personality. I think since the game is so short, it doesn't really come into play. There are a few lines of dialogue that change based on what your character's personality is, but like I said, the game's so short that it doesn't really come into play. So I am curious to see that concept executed in maybe a longer game or a game with more meaningful choices. Like if a larger game like The Witcher 3 or like Fallout did shit like that, where like a major choice wasn't a decision of your own, I think people would feel like it robbed them of agency. So like, I think it's an interesting concept. I don't think it was executed well in this game, and I don't know if you even could execute it well, but I would be interested to see another game do it. All in all, I think this is a solid game. It's not perfect. It has a lot of flaws. It's a little bit too short. If this sounds interesting to you, you'll most likely like it. If you're not sure, wait for it to go on sale. If you like the first one, definitely like this one. If you like story-driven visual novels, that sort of thing, you'll probably like this game. And if you like the Vampire the Masquerade universe, I think you'll find this very interesting. Bloodlines 2 is coming out at some point, so I think this will help stave off your cravings for blood, so to speak. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more content.